Going to be time for a live stream. This Geiger counter came today. The video's not going to be on it tomorrow. This came with something very interesting in it. Some of you might know because we were actually chatting about this in the chat before. But yeah, this is a Soviet DP-63 Geiger counter. I think these actually are probably a bit older than the DP-5 series, but the idea was they were just kind of a man-portable one. And we're also obviously going to talk about Corona because, unfortunately, the situation in the UK is getting pretty grim with that. Obviously, it's worse in Italy and everywhere else, but the UK is going to get very bad because our government is just coming up with bullshit, basically. But yeah, there was something really cool with this. So as much as this is a really cool old Geiger counter, and it does on the top scale with, it's going to be quite hard because I've taken the back plate out, which I'll explain in a minute for you to see that. It does 0 to 1.5 Rontgen on the top scale, 0 to 50 Rontgen on the bottom scale. You have to hold the button down to actually power it, which is one of the annoying things, and it takes obsolete batteries, but luckily Hype had sent me some of the batteries it pretty much took, so I modified them and got it to fit. But yeah, what came with this, and we will talk about Corona in a minute when people bring it up in the chat, is that it came with a radium backplate. A radium backplate that had so much radium paint on it that it gives off nearly 1 Rontgen per hour in terms of radiation. Yeah, don't forget to like it. Thank you, Gretchen. What kind of filter is it, Deadly Mexican Taco? If it's a filter with a plastic case on, you're already covered. If it's a filter without a plastic case, I would say maybe see if you can put a bit of a plastic bag over it. Obviously, put some holes in it so you can breathe. But also has a really cool old Soviet manual with this, so let's just get the manual out. It's actually a really big, thick one as well. Obviously, I can't read any of it, but there's a load of information in here about this. I've had a headache all day, I've had a headache all day, truth, love and honour. But in terms of feeling lethargic, it's not been as bad today, and I've also, you know, like my body's aching less. So let me get the radium out and show you how hot the radium was that came with this. But yeah, just to quickly mention, because we'll talk about Corona, the UK government did its response today of stepping up efforts, and they basically said lots of your loved ones are going to die. You know, lots of people are going to die before they should die, but really, it's not a bad thing if it spreads, because people then get a herd immunity to it. It's like, oh, what the fuck? Yes, thank you, Truth, Love and Honor. But yeah, it's getting better. Saying it's not instantly better yet, but it is getting better. This also has a strontium-90 check source inside, but I don't know if you'll see the needle move much from that. So if you do that, it uncovers the strontium-90, but due to the age of it, it barely moves the needle. Yeah, it's not really going to move it. Yeah, the markets are crashing. So anyway, let me show you how hot the radium plate was that came in this. I'm going to put it just in a little bag again, or a little plastic case, because obviously you don't want to touch this with your actual hand, because radium paint. But yeah, so that was a radium painted back plate in there. So let me put the therapy back on dose rate mode, and watch this. If I put the audio back on. If I get that directly over the tube. I managed to get this to go high enough earlier that it actually shorted the tube. Don't know if it's going to do it at the moment, but... I'll turn the speaker off now because that's going to annoy me. But yeah, I'm not getting it to do it now. But earlier on, it got to literally about 10 millisieverts, so, you know, 1 centisievert, and made the Geiger short out. Again, it's quite hard to actually get the angle right to do that. But yeah, it turns out if you have over 10 millisieverts of electrons from a beta source hitting the tube at once. That's going to short out the Geiger. So yeah, I'll put this back in a little thing. I'm probably going to, although I'll keep it in a box with some lead sheeting just to be safe, I'll probably just store it in this for now. Obviously, I'll make sure I wash my hands properly after the stream. But yeah, that's how I'll store it in there. But yeah, so there you go. The most radioactive item I have is just a massive amount of radium the Soviets put on that thing. Some of my Geigers, it actually just stops working when you get them about an inch from it. So yeah, the UK response, for those of you that didn't hear, was that basically your relatives might die. Tough luck, basically. We're not going to do anything to contain it. Just stay at home if you feel ill. You know, where, like Yakov just said, in Israel, they're closing schools all around the world. They're taking measures. But yeah, so the scary thing, Gretchen mentioned this in a video that I just finished watching just before I came on the stream, is that if you keep allowing it to spread, there's a mutation risk and it could get even worse. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Do you ever feel like you're living in a crazy world where people just don't seem to follow logic? Because it seems at the moment the British government is picking every worse sort of choice to do. Yeah, truth of all, earlier today in the UK, they literally said on their press conference thing, don't bother getting tested if you think you have it, just stay home. So they're trying to artificially keep the numbers down, I reckon. And, you know, oh, we can't be bothered to do it. The thing is, they're saying all this, oh, we don't want to hurt the economy by doing this, doing that. But the economy's crashing anyway, so what's the fucking point? You know, if we're going to lose all this money, you know, anyway, you might as well save people's lives in the meantime, not just let it spread. Yep, that's what I was just on about, Brandon. Thank you very much. It's fucking stupid is my answer to it. Yeah, what they're saying is basically their logic is if you act too early, people will get bored of containment measures and will stop following them. Problem is there's going to be some people that will never follow quarantine measures, you know, that are voluntary anyway, because they just don't care. And it's all me. And then the thing is, if you look at somewhere like Italy, where everything's being forced on it, most people there aren't saying, oh, I'm going to get bored in a month because the hospitals are overwhelmed and people are dying, you know. Yep, PA3, I was just showing it just now. I put it in a little plastic tub. But, yeah, it's here. I took it out. It's not even a check source. This is a screen, because it's a strontium-90 check source at the bottom of it, but... Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll get another guy. I'll get the classic type Geiger on to demonstrate it. Yeah, there you go. Over 5,000 counts per second from this. So yeah, very, very hot. So, Wagarino Albino said, I wore my gas mask on public transport today, got a lot of weird looks, but I have no regrets. Good for you. I'd rather put up with some embarrassment than have one of my elderly people in my family die. Yeah, that's the right attitude to have. Because, again, that is going to be more effective at slowing down the spread than, you know, the government's plan of, oh, if you feel a bit ill, stay home. Because, again, the thing everybody is ignoring, which is really, really frustrating, is it has an incubation period where you can spread it. And again, if we look at Singapore, Hong Kong, where was the other one? There was another one of the Asian countries. I know South Korea is getting on top of it to a degree, but there was one, Singapore, Hong Kong, and there was one of the others, Taiwan? Yeah, Taiwan. All of those three have been doing measures, you know, like making people wear masks in public, whether they have it or not, just to slow down the spread, you know, closing schools early, you know, closing lots of public gatherings, and oh look, they're managing to stay on top of it. Yeah, it was Taiwan, Kevin's correct. Whereas what we're doing is saying, oh, why should we bother doing any of those steps? I think that's necessary, Bart, in some way. I mean, it'd be more like manslaughter, in my opinion, than murder. But yeah, if you're being told to quarantine because you risk spreading a deadly disease, you need to obey that. So what seems to be being suggested is the majority of the countries in the world enacting measures are doing something the UK isn't. Depends how fucked you mean by fucked, MetFan96. If you mean fucked as in a lot of people die and it will be really bad for a while, yes. If you mean will the entire population of the world die off, I don't think so, no. Oh, that's annoying, RJB. I didn't know about that. But yeah, that's a shame if South Korea has had a spike because they were getting on top of it. But South Korea is still doing the right thing because they've been doing a lot of vigorous testing and quarantining. Whereas what the UK and America have been doing is just barely doing tests and then saying, oh, look, our cases aren't very high because we're barely testing anybody. Oh, yeah, South Korea went up 114 cases today. But saying in that, if they've went up 114 cases today, the UK went up 130 cases today. And that's, based on the limited test kits we're doing. Iran went up over 1,000 cases. Italy went over 2,600 cases today. So South Korea is still, even with those numbers on there, still doing a very good job, in my opinion. Thank you, Thomas. He said, UK universities are closing down very quickly. So are the universities opting to do that then? Because I know the government said schools and all that don't need to close. So is it just a case of universities actually taking some, thoughtful measures and saying we ought to close because it's a bad idea to keep them open? Well, Patrick, eventually, yeah, you probably will have a herd immunity thing, but I think the best bet would just be trying to take whatever delaying methods you can while you put a lot of financing into trying to find a vaccine or, something similar. But I certainly think it's very counterproductive to do what the UK government's doing and basically say do nothing and then people catch it and eventually you have herd immunity. Because again, unless you slow it down enough, what happens is you get so many people catch it at once, hospitals get overwhelmed, and lots of people die from quite preventable things. Right, Olive, once they do that, that will be good. But again, they really need to get on that because at the moment in the UK, lots of people phoning 111 who have actually been, potentially exposed, have all the symptoms, have been in close contact with even people confirmed to have it, being told, no, you don't have it, don't waste our time, basically. That's strange that you smell cigarette smoke through your mask, Edge7. What kind of filter on have you got? Because certain filters block certain kinds of vapors. There's been a couple of cases near me, by the way. I won't say exactly where they are because if somebody did want to dox me, they'd actually be able to look that up. But there was one case that's really too close to comfort. And Mike was saying as well, it's Weapon Collector. He had a case really close to him as well that's, quite scary. Where it's, for me, the case was close enough that you could have probably come into contact with this person. Marlboro filter on a mask. Yeah. I think that's going to happen, Truth, Love and Honour, because, again, if enough people get it badly and people have to work or whatever because they're not being allowed time off sick or whatever, people will just be dropping in the street. Oh, Kevin, stay safe. But, yeah, you in a busy area or a remote area? Because if it's a busy area, it's probably affected more people. Apologies, yawning. Alex said, there's 120 cases in Berlin, Germany, and I already know one person who is positively tested. It's closer than you guys think. Yeah, exactly. Boston, yes, there's going to be a lot of population density. Yeah, stay safe then. Imen, if that's your name, sorry. It's a bit of a difficult name for me to pronounce through the text, but... So, let me just try and get this straight, Pietro. So, you can't wear, like, a military gas mask, but you can wear a panoramic mask. That doesn't make much sense. I don't know what legislator thought of that. If you can't wear, like, proper military gas masks, would it be cheaper to buy a hardware mask and then just wear it with goggles? Because that would offer basically the same level of protection. That's a good point, Halon. But again, what's strange is I don't know if it specifically applies to gas masks. Because what was it? I know in some places gas masks are banned while other kinds of like full head things aren't banned. Again, that's still a good idea, Yakov. If they're not stopping buses, at least, yeah, maybe say people have to sit so many seats apart from each other. Right, wow. The only issue with surgical masks is they're basically to prevent you infecting other people. Now, if everybody wore a surgical mask, it would slow down the rate of infection because it would offer a little bit of protection to the person wearing it, and it would stop other people spreading it, even if they don't know they have it as easily. But surgical masks are mostly useless, just because they don't have any filter medium. At the most basic, get a mask like this, a dust mask, N95 style mask, or like, a little half-face respirator, because they actually have a filter medium to them, so air is filtered that comes through it. I've not updated one in ages, Hunter, but I do need to do that at some point because people asked me to do a bug out bag video ages ago, and I said, yeah, I get round to it, and I haven't got round to it yet. Are you glad you've been banned from going Sailor Ashore, or are you annoyed that you've been banned from going? But again, you need to look out for your health, don't you? But that's going to be the horrible thing now. I think there's going to be loads of people who either have to really isolate themselves, or risk potentially dying from it. When you say double bag an N95 mask, do you mean wear two? Wearing two is not going to help. It could just break the seal of one of them. At the moment, Sam, I can't really think of much other than if you've got some sort of sanitizer, take that with you just so you can disinfect things easily. Yeah, exactly, Bart. They're having to do that triage thing. Basically people just come in, and because the hospitals are so overwhelmed, just going, what are the odds somebody's going to live or die with treatment, and then just doing that. And again, lots of these things be things where you have a really good recovery rate prior to all of this. And again, people don't seem to get this. I'm not saying people in the chat, but I'm saying just people in the media or politicians in general, or they just don't want to believe it or say it, that, if we get overwhelmed like that everywhere else, you're going to have people dying from very treatable things. DP-63 is a Geiger counter. Let me get it back out. So it's a retro old Soviet one that does on the low range tube 0 to 1.5 Rontgen, and on the other tube up to 50 Rontgen. And it has a strontium 90 check source inside. So let me open that up, but it's aged so much the strontium 90 check source barely moves the needle on it. Yeah, it doesn't really do much, does it? And it also came with a massive bit of radium that was really fun for getting it to give readings on. But yeah, I mostly just bought this as an antique because I like old Geiger counters. This one doesn't click, by the way, because it's not got a headphone socket as far as I'm aware. But it is a... Yeah. No, it's not one with a probe, Nico. The Soviet one with the probe was the DP5 series. The DP-63 was designed to be a lot more compact. Because basically what you did with the DP-63 was you just simply wear it around your neck like this. You probably have it a bit shorter than that, but you'd have it around there. Then when you wanted to take a reading, you just open it up, hold the button down. It warms up the tube slightly, and then obviously if the needle starts moving, you know how radioactive it is. This also has a kind of not very user-friendly design, but I guess it's to make the batteries last longer. You have to hold the buttons down for it to give a reading. They're not like toggle buttons or whatever. It's just literally, I guess that was because they thought people would forget to turn it off and the batteries would drain. It's quite a cool old design. It's got two Geiger tubes in it. One's for beta and one's for beta and gamma. Or, sorry, one's for beta and gamma, the low range one, and I think the high range one is gamma only. But again, it was, I think, more of a civil defense type one. Is that the war game thing you said, Londonium? Yeah, let me look that up. Well, they've cancelled them. Yeah, it says reduction has been cancelled or reduced. I think a lot of those old Geigers, I'd say, are more diesel punk than steampunk, Mark. But I don't want you to be worried, Matt fan, but I'd say it is something to consider and take steps with, just because anybody that's been to Italy recently, and this is nothing against Italians, it's just if you've been in a country where there's been loads of cases, you're on much higher risk of having it. CFF3, let me look that up, your man, because I don't know what that is off the top of my head, unless it's equivalent to P3. Oh, that'll be absolutely fine. That's, I think, the old French NBC filters or Italian NBC filters, isn't it? Escape hoods are fine if you get ones, and unfold them properly, and like I did in the video with it where I nearly suffocated myself. An NBC suit, not really, Pixel Boy. It's just it's easier to decontaminate than regular clothing if you had an NBC suit on. The UK is not 10K, is it? Or is that what they're saying it could potentially be? Because I thought last time I looked, the UK numbers were 1,000 and something, weren't they? Let's have a look. UK. Oh no, the UK's 590 cases according to Worldometers, 130 up today plus 2. But Italy went up 2,651 today. Iran went up over 1,000. Spain's gone up 782. France has gone up 595. Germany's gone up 779. So yeah, it's not good. All right, so yeah, it's just going to be a case then, isn't it, Little Vamp? They've not been doing enough tests and they've dropped the ball on it, and then the numbers really are higher, but if you don't test people, can't know. Yeah, exactly, Bart. That's the thing, is if you look at what's going on with a lot of the numbers, it doesn't take a genius to say we're going to have a similar thing, if not worse, if we're not taking precautions. They could very well have lied about it, or we won't know for sure, but when we start seeing the numbers in Western countries, I think we'll get a good idea. But I'd say just look at Italy's figures, because I don't think Italy's trying to cover anything up with it. All right, NBC suits, James, are nuclear biological chemical suits, a bit like that orange thing behind me. The idea is they're easy to decontaminate. Obviously, they protect your skin from chemical weapons, but the main point of them is if you get nuclear, biological, or chemical weapon residue on you, it can be easily decontaminated when you take the suit off, rather than if you wear regular clothes, where it could get stuck into the clothes and kill you, or hurt you later on. I already said about the escape hood masks and preps. If you can get them at decent prices and you don't mind using them, they're all right. They're not my favourite things in the world, but they are what they are. I have no idea, English Slav. What countries got cases around the same time as the UK did, like when the cases started inflating? Let's get France and UK both up. I want to see. When did France start getting the big jump go up? So March 1st, 130, March 2, 191. I'm just seeing. Right, I reckon our numbers are at least very close to France, looking at this. France or Germany or Spain, I reckon our numbers are pretty close to. No, because the government's literally said awesome R3 in the UK, they don't give a shit if your family dies. They basically just said in the speech today that, you're going to lose loved ones, tough shit. They didn't word it like that, but that's what they meant. Yeah, I certainly agree with you there, Rachel. If you look at Italy, again, it's at like a nearly 50% mortality rate, isn't it, on closed cases? Let's just get that up again. Italy, 45% death rate on the closed cases. Again, it's because the hospitals get overwhelmed and then people can't be treated. If you look at that, the link I've just put in, that's the Italy figures. Gives you, some idea. What was I going to do? There was something I was going to grab. I can't remember what it was. Never mind. Closed cases, Carnifex means that basically either you've died or recovered, so you're no longer suffering from it. So once you're infected, you're not a closed case until you've died or recovered from it. So basically when you're off the system for having it. I've already answered you masks and preps twice now. Don't ask it again. I already said yes if you're comfortable using it. I don't think there's going to be a big lockdown in the UK because they've literally said we don't give a shit about people dying, in other words. In a lot of countries there's going to be lockdowns, but in the UK I don't think there is, and I'm not saying that as a good thing, as in, you know, I don't want to be under martial law. I'm just saying that, you know, I'd rather less people died from it. That's all right, Mark. They're somewhat cheap and easy to use. Well, cheap, yes. Easy, be careful about that, because unless you get everything unfolded properly when you put them on, you can suffocate. So again, the numbers could be even higher again, could they, Rachel? That's quite a scary thought. My Spaziani TR2002, Zach, just because it's a good big panoramic mask. Oh, wow. Yeah, if you can get Spazianis for $30, get them. They're amazing masks. Sorry, what did you ask about the S10, Mr. Deja Vu King? I don't think I saw your question. Right, it used to be, James Jimmy, that you could buy 5 litres like that, that you could water down yourself for £20 in like, you know, 5 litre jerry can type thing. It was about £20. Sadly, I think those size bottles are about £40 now. French numbers are pretty grim, Booker. I think they're like, again, a week or two behind Italy's numbers. Then you're going to be seeing the exact same thing there. Just like, you know, Spain is seeing very similar numbers. Thank you, Andrew. He said, if I have Israeli filters, will it still work as a particulate filter after 24 hours? Yes, it will. As in Israeli Type 80 filters, that'll be absolutely fine. What's your Discord name? Or is your Discord username Discord number? Because if you look at the bottom of your Discord, it will have your name and your number. If you click that, it will copy it into the thing, so then you can just copy and paste it in. All right, I'm sure you'll like those masks, engineering training. MC1's quite a cheap basic mask, but it'll work. That's the good thing, at least. You know, I think most people, if they have an option of wearing a slightly uncomfortable mask or, you know, risking getting a virus, they'd always go for the uncomfortable mask. Right, P3 filters, to repeat this for anybody that doesn't know. A P3 filter only stops working when it gets totally clogged. Under normal circumstances, obviously, if you dropped it or like decided to soak it in water, that can break them. But in terms of breathing through it, a P3 filter will only stop working when it becomes so saturated you can't breathe through it anymore. Or maybe if it was like 50, 60 years old and falling apart. But for the most part, if you've got an out-of-date P3 filter or you're wondering if you open it, how long is it going to last? The answer is like months to years of normal usage. To give you some idea, I've got a hardware mask in my car that I normally use every week when I'm volunteering. And when I sort of use that nearly every week, to some degrees, like some weeks more than others, I have yet to have, you know, the filters need changing on it. Right, Alex, my political views, I don't mind saying I'm mostly quite libertarian. Not totally like full ANCAP right-wing libertarian, but as in, you know, I think generally the government shouldn't have much business in people's things. You know, they should stay out of regular people's business. But there should be some degree of state, you know, rather than no state whatsoever. And I don't mind a bit of socialist leaning to, you know, libertarianism. And a lot of people say that can't go hand in hand, but it can. It's just like you have some taxes on some goods if they're somewhat low, and that pays, you know, for certain things like socialized healthcare. So hopefully that answers your question. I might have seen one. I don't have one, but I might have seen videos of that Yugoslav one. Let me have a look. DRM-free Geiger counter. Oh yeah, I've seen those on eBay, but they're normally like £100, so I've never bought one because the postage is quite expensive as well. But they look quite cool. There's a really nice looking probe on the Yugoslav one, saying that. Aren't those the probes that are really easy to modify to put like modern GM tubes in as well? GOST filters gas the runner, but if you want modern filters, either modern Russian filters, modern Chinese filters, or Polish FP5 filters. Right, I need to check. Did that guy find out what his Discord ID was? Oh, Dingo ate my memes. Right, let me post that in for you and add you. Sorry, Andrew, I only just spotted you did that. Let me load up Discord. I'd get one if you're in Slovenia, Blade, and you can get one, or you saying it's on eBay for €50. Right, let me just add you. I've sent you a friend's request. Once you accept that, I'll invite you. What, just watching a blank screen, Mask and Preps, or just watching the chat until the chat ended? Yeah, don't forget to like the stream, everybody. It certainly helps me out. I'll have a look on eBay after the stream. As long as the postage isn't too expensive and it's in working condition, I wouldn't mind. But anyway, just to go back while I'm waiting for some actual questions on the radium. Again, this is quite funny. The bit of radium that was in that, I'll put this here so you can see it. This is just a simple Geiger board. There we go. It's not short-circuiting now. Yeah, it's working. Right. So, to give you an idea just how hot this bit of radium is that's in there. Yeah. It's quite amazing. Respirator on a budget, I assume you mean, not on a budgie, as in a budgerigar. It's hard to say because, again, everything's selling out. Can you still get Polish MC1s, Czech CM3s, or Czech CM4s anywhere? Because they're all right. That's not even a rock this time, Dwarven Miner. The one I have the most of, RJB, is radium, as in, radium-226. Just because it's easy, right? In the UK, where we have some laws on owning radioactive substances, there is no law on owning radium-226. Like, they say you can only have a certain amount of, like, uranium, or a certain amount of, like cesium and stuff like that. But in terms of radium, there's no rules that I've ever found looking on any, like, the legalese sites saying how much radium you can own. So I like radium for that reason, because if you want to test certain meters, you don't have to worry, oh, if I buy this much, am I going to be breaking some stupid law? So there's that. The other thing, I mean, if you're on about pure radionuclides, I like strontium-90 because you can play with it fairly safely. As long as you don't swallow it, strontium-90, if it's in a sealed Czech source, is literally just emitting beta. So unless you tape it to your skin for hours, it's not really going to damage you or you stare into it. But I'm hopefully getting some cobalt-60 soon. So when I get cobalt-60, that'll be very interesting, but it'll be quite an old bit of cobalt-60, so it's probably not going to be very active. Yeah. Hopefully that's answered your thing about radionuclides and my favorite radiation things. Right. I'm going to read the thing out about 5G, and I'll give you my opinion on it again. People are suspicious about the new 5G, says Robin Jensen. There's a 5G place and birds refuse to fly near it. Let me scroll up. The grass is dead. What are your thoughts on this? Right, personally, I don't know if 5G is potentially bad for people or not. Iron Wolf Spear goggles, what I recommend. I'll go back to the 5G thing. Lab goggles where you can tape the vents. Hardware goggles. Weapon Collector did a video that was quite interesting of just literally getting a bit of a plastic bottle and cutting it so you can make shift goggles that way, which are a solid layer. Thank you very much, Roman. I think you can get swimming goggles as well. I think there is a kind of like big non-vented goggles you can get, but I'm not sure what they're called. Thank you, Roman. I'll read both these comments out in a second. Roman says, I heard from some friends of mine that the principal of the high school a town over from me has coronavirus. That's pretty worrying, especially if he's infected children that could have potentially infected their parents or grandparents. Brian Synth, if that's how your name's pronounced, he said, thanks for all the info. I purchased the M65 recently and watching one of your videos, and I love it. I'm glad you like it. Let me add you on Discord as well. Yeah. About 5G, right? The thing is with 5G is, can 5G harm you? I don't know, because I've not done enough research into it. And again, like lots of these things that aren't ionizing radiation, other forms of, like radio waves and whatever, probably at certain frequencies for certain lengths of time, they can be harmful. But I don't think simply being in an area where there's a 5G mast for a bit of time is going to harm you. And it's certainly not, ionizing radiation, as in, you can get a Geiger counter and measure it that way, because lots of people seem to think it is. It isn't. If there's a 5G mast, you can't put a Geiger counter on and hear it ticking. But yeah, I certainly do not believe the stuff about 5G causing the virus or spreading it. I've just got a message on Discord. Hang on, let me have a quick look at it. I don't know if it's something for me to... I'll just tell the person I'll look after the stream. But yeah, the problem is, obviously, when I'm streaming, I can't really keep looking away from the stream. But yeah, like somebody saying about the ground lines, or whatever, yeah, there's other factors that could do it if you put a big tower somewhere that could affect it. But, if there was a 5G tower near me, I would do a video taking loads of Geiger counters and ionization chambers over there to see if I could get a reading on it. And I'd be quite disappointed because I wouldn't get a reading. And if there was a mast I could literally go to and see the needles move on big, Rontgen level ionization chambers, that'd be good fun. But it won't do that. A bit better, the Gaming Raptor. I phoned in this morning, like I said I was going to do, to not do my volunteer shift today. And they said, yeah, don't come in if you've got something that might be infectious anyway. So hopefully by next week I'll be feeling better. But I'm off work this weekend anyway because I booked it off as holiday, so it's quite coincidental with the timing. Yeah, I'll look into that at some point, Roman, because like I was saying, I definitely think there could be some stuff with stuff like that where it could cause tumours or whatever, because I know certain radio frequencies can cause like migraines and things like that, can't they? Because my uncle, he's actually an engineer, and he really doesn't like being near Wi-Fi routers and all those sort of things. Because, yeah, like my uncle, I would believe him when it comes to a lot of technology stuff, and he certainly doesn't like, there's certain things like that, even though I certainly trust an electronics engineer's opinion on a lot of things. He's certainly quite suspicious of a lot of Wi-Fi things, but he's never said, things like, oh, it causes viruses. I think he just thinks like it can cause, some sort of very low level damage over time, the longer and longer you're near it. But again, when it comes to 5G, the main issue is on these chats at the moment, everybody is saying like, oh, it causes coronavirus. Like, no, it can't cause a respiratory illness. Yeah, Furnace is a good mask. The Norwegian M9A1 wouldn't actually be an M9A1, would it? Is that the Norwegian M51? Is this the 40mm? Let me look what that one is then, because when people say M9A1, I obviously think of the American M9A1. Oh, is this the one we've been over before, which was Norway did a version of it in 40mm? If it's an M9 clone, yeah, it's probably going to be good enough. But yeah. I've not got Romanian M74, but I've got Romanian M85, and that's a good mask. S10 would be fine for Corona with the right filters. I wouldn't be worried yet, JL Terrier, but just keep an eye on your symptoms, measure your temperature. If you've got a blood oxygen checker, keep using that. You know, one of these things, right? Let's not get into arguments again about what reading means what, because it says right on there what they mean. So there we go. My blood oxygen is 99. So there's that. Again, my heart rate's pretty high according to this, even though I'm sitting down, but whatever. Let me look up what an M35 is. I assume it's some gas mask, is it? If you mean a German World War II one, probably not due to age. That's not an air pressure monitor. That thing, just to go over it again, I don't want to go into arguments on this, because, again, that was what ruined the stream the other day, was when people did not understand what a blood oxygen monitor does. A blood oxygen monitor tells you your heart rate and levels of blood oxygen. Blood oxygen, the higher that is, the better. So where mine was 99% just now, that's very good. Heart rate, you know, it should be between like 70 and 100, shouldn't it, for most people, unless you're an athlete or whatever. Mine was about 110, so that's a bit high, but again, there could be something causing that, and I'm talking to a lot of people on the stream, so it could always be that. Yeah, I've checked it on other people survive. Their heartbeats are always lower than mine. Right, the problem is, post-Tyrone, when people type jokes in the chat, you can't tell if anybody's being sarcastic. And bear in mind, when I try and answer people's questions a lot, you do get people who are being deadly serious when they ask stupid things. Whenever somebody said there's no such thing as a stupid question, there really is. I did have a bit of coffee earlier, mostly to try and fix my headache, so it could just be caffeine. To be honest, some of the medication I'm on, I think, probably increases my heart rate slightly. Nearly always eBay Venerix. Yeah. It's definitely more than 1 beat a second, so yeah, I'd say it is probably around 100. We don't know, Mask and Preps. There was a dog that tested weekly positive, but they're not sure if it was just because it was around an infected person for a long time. No, I quit, Ben. I used to be years ago, but I quit. Right, for the same person spamming the 5G question, goodbye. Well, that's not even a question. So basically, you asked me a question about 5G. I gave you my opinion that it doesn't cause coronavirus, and then you keep spamming your conspiracy about it. Goodbye. Because again, like we said, I'd rather keep these chats factual than speculative of stuff that might actually happen than going off the deep end of crazy conspiracies. I have never broken a mask, Keyron, as far as I'm aware. Except for ones like where I've got really old ones and the straps have snapped and things like that when I've tightened them. Right, Roose Bolton, he's asked a proper question. He says, is a surgical mask better than wearing nothing? I know you aren't the best. I know they aren't the best, but it has to be better than not wearing anything. Yes, they're better than nothing. The reason is, supposedly, it stops you touching your mouth if you have a surgical mask on. If you've got one over your nose and mouth, while it's on, you're not going to be touching your nose and your mouth. You can still rub something in your eyes, but you're not going to be, rubbing anything into your mouth and nose while you've got a surgical mask on. Although it doesn't filter air coming in, it will stop stuff hitting you directly in the face. Like, so if some spittle flies out of somebody's mouth, it will stop it going straight into your nose or mouth that way. And if people wearing a surgical mask have a virus or infection of any sort that is airborne, it massively slows down the rate of infection just based on, if people are coughing, sneezing, or just breathing out into a surgical mask, it spreads less quickly. So yes, if everybody was to wear a surgical mask as opposed to nothing, it might give you something like 5% protection from catching something, but it might, give 70% protection from other people spreading it to other people. So yeah, if everybody had a surgical mask, it's certainly better than nothing. All right, cheers, smartphone. Yeah, Dr. John's videos are very good, aren't they? I'd say he's the best channel I've found so far to do with Corona stuff, where he seems to just take it at a very straightforward kind of thing. Because the issue I have with a lot of channels is they really try to politicize it, or they have very much an agenda they want to keep pushing, and then every video it has to be about it's just the flu, or it's like the end of the world. Let's stress that every video. Right, yeah, let me add you on Discord. Second. Modern GOS filters. The only modern truly GOS filters are some modern Chinese filters and modern Russian filters, like the Russian dot filters or whatever they're called. Right, the bloke says, just trust me. Right, so I'm going to stop reading the questions on the stream a minute, and I'm going to see what he's sending me on Discord, because he says I want to read it. So I won't read it out loud until I've read it. It's to do with stuff about quarantine in New York City. I thought they had done some quarantine already in New York City, had they? But it's potentially, yeah, there could obviously be quarantine stuff. But the thing is, it wouldn't surprise me at any point now if a major city somewhere in the world said, we're doing a lockdown. Thank you, Aaron. If somebody's done any sort of donation, just sucks, either on Patreon or here, they just give me a Discord ID and I'll invite them to a server. All the finished gas masks are good, Eli. So yeah, if you've got a finished gas mask and got a filter on it, it'll be fine. Right, let me look up the 3M6200, but probably whatever the P3, P100 rated filters are. Yeah, right, so let me get the 3M filters chart up, and I'll tell you the ones on the filter chart which you need. Great, none of these actually load the page when I'm going to them. Right, hang on a second. But either those big pink filters they do, which are combination ones. Google image search is fucking useless now. They did all that stuff. I should just use DuckDuckGo. But 3M2097 filters, they're all right. 3M6035s, 3M0793s. The problem is with 3M filters is they're done on weird numbers rather than actually being on. Thank you, JM. The 3M filters. Yeah, that's the issue with I'll say 3M is that a lot of the time they give their filters weird 4-number names, but go for the ones that are P3, P100 rated, or a combination filter that includes a P3, P100 MIP. Yeah, I wouldn't go Sparrow if I was you. Well, it'll completely protect you from Corona and not expire against Corona, your nan, so yeah, £20 is fine for that. It depends what sort of filter survive, but in theory, you don't need to throw a filter away just because you've used it. Yeah, it's an IBM Model M RJB. So I'll just quickly pan down. It's a bit discolored due to age, but look, IBM Model M. There you go. Some people moan when I'm actually in a voice chat and I've got it because obviously they can hear me typing, but I really like buckling springs. No, it won't breed on surfaces because it's a virus, not bacteria. So when it's on a surface, it can sometimes live on there for a few days, but it won't actually breed while on the surface. So if you get the virus in the filter, it's going to be stuck in the filter and it will eventually die after some time. So it's not like a bacteria where under the right conditions it will keep breeding and breeding and breeding on the surface. So no, if you've been using a filter, as long as you take the filter and mask off without contaminating yourself, you can use them again. Right, the problem with the Yugo M9 copies, Alf, is they're randomly known to melt. In terms of, would the M9 with a 40mm adapter and a modern 40mm filter be fine? Yes. The issue is, if you randomly get one and it melts, it's not going to give you any protection. And again, nobody seems to know why they melt. It might be some weird chemical reaction with the mask and something in the air, or just the mask over time kind of is made from a shitty compound that falls apart. But lots of people have reported and posted photos of just these kind of molten Yugo M1 masks. Have you not been following anything with its free? Again, it depends if you're self-quarantining or not. But if you've been looking on the chart, it is really bad in the places it's getting a foothold in. Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. Don't forget to like the stream, everybody. I'll be on for another 10 minutes and then I'll be off. James, I think it depends on what kind of hand sanitizer it is. Because it, again, not all hand sanitizer is the same thing. If you get the ones that have moisturizer in, that's not going to be an issue. Again, I think, yeah, if you are washing your hands constantly, that can damage the skin more than not doing it. When you get back in Gaming Raptor, yes, because otherwise, if something's on the mask, you take it off, you get that on your hand, and then it gets into your face that way. Not good. Yeah, the Yugo M2F, well, I think it's technically the Serbian M2, isn't it? When it was actually made, it was after the fall of Yugoslavia. Again, it has the same rubber problems. It's a much better mask in terms of quality of the mask, but again, it's made from that weird rubber. Thank you, Engineer in Training. He said, my name is Greg and I live in New Orleans. I've been masked since Monday today. I haven't seen anyone else wear one. I joined Discord. But yeah, the thing is, like we're saying, is that wearing a mask is sensible. Again, you need to know what masks work and what masks don't. But again, you're not going to cause anybody else any harm, are you, by wearing a mask? This is the thing, is as much as some people seem to get offended over it, which is just stupid, you're not going to harm anybody else, and potentially you are slowing down the spread of a dangerous virus. Uranus, I have no idea how you'd ID a filter without posting a picture or anything of it, because simply telling me how you'd ID a filter, I don't know. Look at the numbers on it. No, NBC filters fast flight generally have a P3 bit at the front, so if anything, NBC filters are harder to breathe through because there's more to them. P3 filters themselves barely feel like there's any resistance at all. Well, Sam, it will give you protection, and if it's panoramic, people can at least see your face. So again, it's less scary to other people. Yeah, it's NBC rated, Francesco Keller, so an Israeli civilian mask is fine for anyone. Manus, if you look at the closed cases, sadly, it's a much higher % chance than that. Again, for ages, people were saying it was about a 2 or 3% chance, or a 1 to 3% chance. But if you look at Italy and France and lots of other countries, the death rate is actually much higher than that. What's UBI? Oh, what, universal basic income? I'm assuming he's going to say, do you see? So do you see universal basic income being paid out to offset the financial warming of COVID-19? Daniel, no, I don't, because I think the government is just literally wanting people to go to work, and if people die, so be it. That seems to be what I gathered from what they said today. They're basically like, yeah, you're going to have people you know and love die. Deal with it. That's basically what they said. They didn't word it like that, but that's what they meant. If you look at the closed cases, Blade Z, it's 45% death rate. So yeah, 7% if you go on all the numbers put together, 45% if you look at the recoveries versus deaths. So those are really scary figures. Yeah, that's the thing, Peach. They're literally saying, aren't they? Oh, the old and the infirm, who cares about them? That's what they're essentially, suggesting. A P2 is certainly better than wearing no mask. I mean, some hospitals are giving doctors N95 masks. And in theory, an N95 mask is P1. So P2 masks are certainly better than P1 masks, but P3, P100 is what you ideally want to be wearing. So if you can't get a P3, P100 mask or filter, just get P2. Again, like I've said, it's just more of just get what you can get. Anything is better than nothing, but ideally, if I was buying masks and filters, I would always go for the top level of protection, especially when there's normally very little price difference in it. Is that in the style of Borat, Ghost Jesus? In my country there is problem, and that problem is Corona-chan. Is that I won't. We have to throw it down the well. I won't sing the actual lyrics to that for obvious reasons. Did they explain that, Sam Clark? Because unless they explained it, that's bullshit. Again, like the thing we've been saying about the thing with the masks is that some doctors have been really honest and like, yes, masks do protect you if they're actually N95 or better. But the issue is there's not enough for doctors because they don't have a big enough stockpile. And more lives would be saved if a doctor had an N95 mask on than a regular person having an N95 mask on. So if they said that and were honest about it, I think a lot of people would go, oh, yeah, they've got a good point, I'll leave the N95s for the surgeons. But again, yeah, sadly, a lot of doctors are just giving the bullshit answer if they don't protect you. I'll have to look up what the MSA Ultra Elite is, but the P3 filters will be absolutely fine. So unless the MSA Ultra Elite is somehow not a mask, you'd be fine. Yeah, that'd be absolutely fine. If it's a full face mask like it is and it's P3 filters, you're golden. Yeah, Sam, I think it's just bullshit. I think a lot of it at the moment is just don't worry about anything. Go to work. Go to work. It's that kind of attitude they're having over here, and it's sickening. Thank you, Dylan. He says Ireland closed schools 2 weeks. Do you think UK will? At the moment, they're saying it won't help somehow. I don't know why, but again, the UK actually said something like it is not desirable for people not to get this. They said something like that. Something bullshit. Personally, I'm Alfie. I saw the message. I wasn't going to read it until I left the stream, but essentially they've stolen your property now, haven't they? And they do work to a degree. You could say that you're wearing it to not infect other people, then cough on the teacher. I don't know. Not that I'd ever suggest you really do that, but again, if I was personally, some parents are pulling their kids out of school at the moment. I don't really blame them, but I think anti-mask attitude is just really bullshit. Because if you look at the countries that have generally encouraged people to wear masks if they're ill, or just in general, like we were saying, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, in those places, there's a lot less spread. It does tell you something, doesn't it? And again, it's not a load of purely coincidental stuff like some people try and imply. Like, no, all those measures that are stopping it, no, it's just a coincidence. It works for all the countries that do it. Maybe the teacher's going to resell it for $10 or pounds, I'm Alfie, because there's people on eBay are selling them for that much. Maybe the teacher confiscates them and resells them. Well, as I was saying quite a few times, Amori Samurai, I personally think shutting down schools is a good idea, because even if we assume children didn't get it or didn't get it badly, but they could carry it, if children are carrying it, they could spread it to their parents and grandparents and things like that, and then end up in lots of, hospitalization cases and potentially fatalities. I would say personally, just take the kids out of school. I know some people make the counter argument that then the parents have to stay off work to look after their kids. But then pay the parents to stay off work and look after their kids. But again, I know a lot of governments don't want to do that, do they? Because it's all about money for them, not money for the regular person. Said, what is the best mask protecting against COVID-19? And thank you. A full face mask with P3 or P100 filters. There isn't a single best mask, but in terms of ratings of masks, a full face mask with P3, P100 filters is best. Then a half face mask with the same filters and goggles. Right, let me add you to journalists. I remember you donating anyway, but thank you. I don't know if it can actually get in through your ears, but if it does, if it has a risk of that, if you just wore a hoodie or a raincoat or something, it wouldn't be able to get in through your ears. No, thankfully I'm not in London, but it's going to be bad in London. We all know that. I mean, I'm sure they're going to say it's business as usual. There was a gas mask video today, Cams. Have you watched it? I've not checked Messenger, Tim. I'll have a look at some point. Yeah, they probably work as well survive. I think just wearing a hoodie would be easier, in all honesty. Yep, there's been a few. I won't mention exactly where they are because people might try and dox me, but yes, there has been some cases very close now. Yep, Sadiq Khan, Super Travis Bickle the other day, literally said, they've put some like state-of-the-art disinfectant on the tubes, therefore people won't get it. Even though we know for a fact it will spread like wildfire on public transport. But, yeah, LBC is a lot more interesting to listen to, Morzimu, because now it's people talking about a pandemic, not talking about Brexit. If it's a disposable free MP3 mask, it'll work absolutely fine, but obviously once you wear it for too long and it gets sort of moist and damp and stuff like that, it's going to lose its filtration ability. Is who still stealing masks and filters if you buy them off the internet? What, you mean the government requisitioning them? I've got a mask was meant to be delivered Thursday a week ago that's still in transit, and they want me to wait several more days before refunding me. So I reckon that's probably been stolen. But in theory, if the government takes them, you're refunded, and they just tell you in an email it's been requisitioned. But again, I reckon a lot of people have just run out of stock, have sold more than they've actually had stock, and just are pretending to dispatch them. Nobody bid on the one I bought Class 2 instructor, so you didn't bid on that one. So how can you gonna buy it if a bid ended and I was the only one that bid on it? I think the same seller had quite a few Helly Hansons on there. Helly Hansons. In the UK, Luke, I don't think they're going to bother. I think at this point they're just going to let everybody die. I'm not even joking with that anymore. I just think if you saw the attitude they had today. Apparently it doesn't live very well on fabric seats, just because if it's an absorbent material like fabrics and cardboards, it dies very quickly on them. French Arthur masks are good by design, not good in how they're built. So in that regard, Simon, I'd say get a Polish MP5 because it's a licensed copy of the Alpha or whatever it's called, but it's made from better rubbers. I don't have an M45. They look really cool, but I've not got one. I know most people who have them like them. Yeah, exactly, Sid. I've seen that sort of argument used loads and loads of times in the past with different things. And again, it's, imagine during World War II, if most governments, instead of handing out masks to civilians, expecting there to be gas attacks, said, you don't need a gas mask because you're more likely to die of gas if you have a mask and don't use it properly. Yeah, if it's a bus with leather seats or plastic seats, though, then that would be more of a worry. Yeah, Simon, if you ended up getting a French ARFA, or whatever they're called, you could get one that's perfectly fine, or you could get one that's gone brittle due to age, where the rubber's dried out. If you get one that's brittle, it's not really going to offer protection. Oh, did they actually stop distributing them in Israel then, Yakov? Because that was the weird thing. Is like I thought you'd have the 4A1 still being handed out, but are they like something you have to buy now? But yeah, it's a shame they still don't hand masks out to civilians, because I think that was one of the really good things Israel did for ages, was that, civilians basically had a mask, and I think they had a fine, didn't they, or whatever, if they lost it. That's again a good policy, because it means that you've essentially got people with some sort of, civil preparedness in them. Right. If I was in a full CBRN situation, Francesco, like there was actually chemical weapons involved, not a virus, probably the Avon CT12 I've got, just because it's made of butyl, which is a more resilient rubber. In terms of NBC suit, the custom one I've got, which is essentially thick fishing waders that come up to here, and then the Polish L1 rubber suit on the top half. That way it's like really good protection. Sadly, I don't have an air raid siren. I don't know why it would smell like honey and piss, D. Whitaker, but no, that's not normal. They normally have a strong plastic smell, but it should not smell like piss or honey, or both mixed together. Yeah, I saw that survive. We're going to be in a depression soon, I reckon, with how much the stocks are crashing. Which ones, Tim? The S10 was really good when the British Army still used the S10. The GSR that they used after the S10 had a lot of problems. They're now being made by Avon, and they fixed a lot of the problems with them. But the S6 was good in the 60s and 70s. The S10 was good in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. The GSR, some of them are good, some are bad, depending on which company manufactured them on which production run. I mean, it would make sense to distribute them, wouldn't it, Yakov? Because, not without buying one, Tim, and finding out if it works or not, unfortunately. But yeah, Yakov, I'll be off in a minute, but yeah, you think it makes sense to hand them out because, again, if you said to people if they go out and about to buy shopping or whatever when they do close downs, they have to keep a mask on all the time, that would massively stop the risk of infection. Yeah, it's going to get worse as well, survive. Anyway, I'll head off now. Thank you to everybody that donated. I'll catch up with any messages people sent me on Discord when I go off. But yeah, anyway, see you all. Goodbye.